We have here Jerry and we have Kim, and they're going to share more about their role and then just more of the intricacies of the jobs that they have, the aspect of ministry that they work in. And I think this will be a really meaningful conversation. Mark and I are really excited to sit down with both of you. So thank you for being here. Let's just kick it off with describing what you do.
Okay.
Start, Jerry?
Yeah. So my name is Jerry, and I am the Restorative Services Manager at Simonka Place. And my role is to oversee the Restorative Services programs. If you were listening earlier, you probably heard from Norma, who oversees the New Life Fellowship program. And so the women that come into Simonka Place, I get the opportunity to meet with them, and I kind of think I have the best job, actually, because I get a chance to see who they are when they first come in and see that transformation that happens as they're there. And so I supervise the case managers, and we just work together to be able to support these women and come alongside them.
And I'm Kim Marinos, and I'm the case manager for our support services program. That caseload specifically is our elderly women, those that are struggling with mental illness, or just those that have maybe a fixed income, just kind of a variety of different situations. Typically, my caseload on paper is the women that are the hardest to house. And so what that looks like on an individual basis to come alongside them and work through those barriers.
Can you chat a little bit about some of the challenges that the women are walking through the door with? What are some of those barriers to success that they're dealing with that you see, that you work through with them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, every woman that walks in our doors has enormous amounts of trauma they have different backgrounds, but lots of trauma. Some have components of mental illness. Some have components of addiction or co-occurring. So they have kind of a number of things that they're struggling through. And like many people think that when we see someone who's experiencing homelessness, we tend to make a judgment on why they're experiencing homelessness. But as any of us know that have worked with those women and those men, there's just a lot of reasons that bring them through our doors. And so addiction and mental illnesses are some of those reasons, but there are other things like being outpriced by the rent increases, losing a job that then impacts their ability to pay rent, domestic violence, and so there's just a number of different things, and that's our job to be able to look at what those things are that have brought them here and to be able to work with them and support them in those areas.
Yeah, I would second that. And it's each person's story is so different. And so just, kind of building trust with them individually, getting to know them, building that rapport so that they can share some of those underlying barriers that might not be on paper, and so that we really know what's going to be the best fit for them long term and to help set them up for success.
And when we talk about success, practically speaking, what does it look like for you to help, lift women out of homelessness, to support them? What are you doing day in and day out?
Yeah, I think it just kind of goes back to what I said, just building, just day in and day out, just being exactly what they need in that moment. And so, maybe one day that's supporting them at a medical appointment or helping advocate for their Social Security income, or just being a second set of ears while they're trying to get into like outside services like Northwest Senior Disability Services, or with their food stamps, or any one of those outside services, but just being exactly what they need in the moment. And so building that trust and rapport over time allows you to really get to know their whole story. And so I think success for each one of our women looks so different and, on a guest by guest basis. But really it's, the end goal for a lot of these women is housing, but there's a lot of other barriers that we can work on in the meantime. So whether that be, a significant amount of debt, so that if they've been outpriced by the rental market, and they've had to use credit cards or whatever they've had to do to get by, now they've, some women come with this enormous amount of debt. So working through getting that paid off, so that's eliminated from their life. So that can be a huge success. Another success can simply just be getting them into regular counseling appointments, getting the regular, doctor's appointments, so that if they're needing to be on a medication or they're wanting to treat their mental illness, they have that opportunity to do that. And so I think success can look very different.
You rolled off a number of partners that you work with.
Yeah.
So talk about that a little bit. I think in our role, it's a very common question that we get. Do you guys partner with anybody else? And it's almost asked from the posture of it's not happening. But talk about that a little bit in your relationships with other organizations and service providers.
Yeah, we really couldn't do this without our partner agencies, and we work very hard at those relationships, as establishing those relationships and staying connected, so that when we have a question about their SNAP benefits, that we can call our contact at DHS and get a quick answer, versus them having to figure out the bus system to get down to DHS, to wait in long lines to be able to talk with someone, or partnering with other shelters or other housing opportunities, so that when there's a housing opportunity, instead of them trying to figure out who are we going to get in next, they'll just make that call to us, and then we staff that and we look at who would be a good fit for that situation. So we love our partners, and we talk with them often, and really they almost like a friend, because we know that's that quick connect, and they use us that way as well. Like DHS, when they're looking for placement, can just give us a call. We'll call Kim directly or me and say, hey, what do you have? This is the situation. How can you help support? And so, and some of those, United Way, Safe Sleep, of course, DHS, we just...
Yeah, Northwest Senior Disability Services, just even having a contact, Helping Hands, definitely. Having a contact like at Social Security is huge. Some of our women have been waiting for that income for years. And so just like Jerry said, just being able to have that contact, to be able to make the call to say, hey, where are we at with this, to get that firm answer. So I think community partners can look like other like direct agencies that we use for housing, but that can also look like any one of the other benefits. That can look like other counseling services. That can look like specialized medical clinics, methadone clinics, anything. There's so many contacts that I feel like Jerry and I and Simanka Place as a whole work so hard to maintain those relationships, and because we want to serve our women well, but also set them up for that success. And so I think it's so important, and that we work really hard with our clients to establish, what life at Simanka Place looks like is we are a program shelter, so it's very orderly, and there's an order to the day, but also, when they're housed, it can be this sudden, like, okay, now I'm in my apartment, but I don't have a schedule. Like, what do I do with my day? And so setting these women up with those contacts before they leave and getting them established with these other agencies can help hand them off well, and so that we are setting them up for that success long term.
So for your guests on your caseload, what might a day in the life of Simanka Place look like? You just mentioned that there's a schedule, and I think people may not even be aware that we are a program-based shelter. And but then beyond that, when we talk about a schedule, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Well, when they're coming into Simanka Place, first we do their assessment, and we just look and see what their needs are. And that helps me to know which case manager is going to be the best fit for them, to be able to support them in the things that they're working through. And so their schedules could look a little bit different, but some of the things that make up their time, their schedule, are that we have classes like DBT, which is dialectical behavior therapy, CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, boundaries, seeking safety, just helping them to understand, the trauma that they've been through. How do I deal with that? How do I deal with crisis? How do I look at the behaviors that I've had and address those so those don't cause further issues or barriers as I move forward. If I move out, I need to know how to communicate with my landlord. And so those classes make up some of their time, and just learning how to walk through those situations and walk through their own trauma. Another piece of that would be work therapy. We try to engage all of our clients, our guests that are at Simonka Place, into some type of work therapy so that they can have a purpose. It gives them an opportunity to give back, to be able to support the other women that are in shelter as well. And so they might be working in laundry services or custodial or helping out in the kitchen. And we've heard from many of them that just gives them this sense of purpose. I feel like I'm doing something, I'm contributing. And of course, then we meet with them, all of the case managers meet with them at least once weekly, and many times more than once, because it's, they're living at where we're working. And so those needs don't just happen once a week. They'll stop in at the office and say, hey, this is what's going on. Can you support me in this? Many of them, they all have the opportunity to seek counseling. So we partner with JD Health and Wellness Clinic. So for medical and for mental health, they have an opportunity to seek support in those areas as well. And then just a number of other things, if they're employment geared, working on their resume, working on finding resources and getting support so that they can be gainfully employed and be successful as they leave. So those are some of the things that happen.
We do have fun things too.
We do.
That fill their time as well. We try to engage the women in either like bingo and bunko time, art therapy, which is huge, and just other things that can kind of not necessarily distract their mind, but give them that sense of not only are they trying maybe something new, but they're able to have fun, maybe meet new friends, but also just kind of give their mind that other piece of healing that comes with laughter and friendship and other parts. So we do try to encourage all of our guests to participate in those extra fun things too. Yeah.
We just want to create the whole story.
Yes.
It's not just business. Yes.
You gotta have the business and the fun.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So it's well-rounded.
Creates normalcy for them.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
We all like to have fun, right?
Yeah. Just like a prime example, our women and children today are going on an outing so that the moms can bond with their children at the Gilbert House Museum. So, that's just one thing that happens to be today.
I didn't want to take over. I mean, I always have more questions, but
Go for it.
okay. Now I got to remember the one that I had. You said something that made me think about another thing, and then there was a trail of thought. So we talk about relationships, long-term success. I think you hit a little bit on that. But how do we foster relationships? Be it. Maybe that's family, friends. It sounds like there's a lot of women who come through Simonka Place who maybe have no one. What does it look like for us to help them build healthy relationships internally, but also externally outside of the shelter?
Yeah, I think that's part of that is looking at what they individually need and supporting them in that. We have, many women who have had very unhealthy relationships. So part of our role is to just teach them what it looks like to have healthy relationships, healthy boundaries, to be able to communicate when things aren't okay rather than escalating, and just kind of sitting with them where they're at. It's not all just business. It's sometimes just listening, when they're in crisis, and having them come in and just be able to listen and as they vent or as they are saying what's going on. And many of them haven't had that listening ear. And so that's just part of what we get to do.
Yeah. And I think it's hard for a lot of our women too, because they haven't had that listening ear, and so then they finally have somebody that's that, and they don't oftentimes know how to react to that. You know, I had a session with one of my clients yesterday, and the purpose of that time together was for us to file for her Social Security disability, which is a big endeavor. It's about a 2-hour ordeal, but in that time with her, so much more came from that, and she just, I learned more about her in those 2 hours yesterday than I've known in the last 2 months about her. And just, having that person that is willing to sit with you and give you their undivided attention and to listen to your needs and, the reasons behind all of these things that have happened in their life. And just to not say, I know, or I understand, because I oftentimes I don't understand, but to just be there and comfort them and let them know that here at Samanka Place, they're safe, they're warm, they're fed, and just to be able to meet their most basic needs is such an honor, but also for them to understand that it's possible, we give them that hope and give them that encouragement that sets them up to be able to have those healthy boundaries and trust in other people again that they've lost over the years. Yeah.
So I'm just curious, and this is probably different for both of you, but there's got to be a time when you're on this journey with your clients, and yes, where you school.
So many times.
Yeah.
Share one of those stories if you can, or think of one real quick. Whoever answers the second has the advantage. So
yeah. Well, I know what Jerry, you shared your story. She has a recent one. It's really good.
Yeah. Well, I think so. One of the, we get to. Sometimes our job is a little bit outside of the box. It's not just sitting and working through some of those things, but it's just getting to experience things that maybe with them that they didn't get to experience and be that support if they haven't had that. And one of the recent experiences that I got to have that I was very fortunate is we have currently a young woman who is from another country, and she came in, and after she moved, came into the United States, she learned that she was expecting a baby. And so she found herself in a position where she was unable to go back home because of a high-risk pregnancy and had nowhere else to be. And so she came into Samanka Place and expecting within about a month, and she was going to be delivering early, and she had no one to be with her. And so she asked if I could be with her as part of her support. And so I got to go to some of her medical appointments, and then ultimately I got to be there while she delivered her newborn son and just experience that with her. And she said, I've never had, this was her third child, and she said, I've never had anyone be there with me to support me. And just to know, it both was heartwarming and very sad to think that, giving birth is such a beautiful thing, and that she's had to experience that alone, and that she trusted me with that, something that's so important. And that I got to be a part of that. And so just seeing her experience that and getting to be that extra support person for her was life-changing for me, and just exciting and comforting for her.
Yeah. Well, that's the best story lately. But
so many good stories.
Yeah, there's so many good stories, and I feel like we do that. Yes, every time, somebody gets housed, because that's such an incredible thing that every single one of our women is waiting for, and so anytime that comes through, no matter whose client it is, we're all so excited for that. But I think too, speaking to Jerry and talking about our job can be a little bit off the wall, but also going back to what I said about being exactly what the client needs in the moment. And so I feel like in my job, I've had the honor or the privilege or kind of the wild hair to do some crazy things for my clients, but it's what they needed in that moment. And so, I recently had a guest who had been in an auto accident, and her car was totaled, and it was sitting in a tow yard, and she needed to gather all of her personal belongings out of there. And I said, I told Jerry, I said, I'm going to leave a little bit early today, and I've got a couple garbage bags, and I'm going to go to the tow yard, and I'm going to get all of her belongings for her. And Jerry was like, okay, and that's what I think, we work with our clients very similarly. But that might just sound like a small thing, but when that's her only belongings, and you think about what it would take for her to get there, to get those, this is an elderly disabled woman who has a walker, who I would have to put on a bus to a rural town to find a tow yard that's probably not on a bus line, to then gather her belongings, then repeat that whole system to get back to Simanka Place. Like, it would take the entire day, and she would probably be, and this is making an assumption, but sitting there kind of trying to weed through what's most important, because she probably couldn't gather everything. Whereas for me, I can get in my car, go grab them for her. And that was just such a gift to her, and you can just see in their eyes sometimes they don't know what to say, but they don't need to say anything. And I feel like the coolest part about our job is that we really get to be just the hands and feet of Jesus all the time, and just showing our clients that unconditional love and just being exactly what they need in the moment. And so whether that's going to a tow yard, or whether that's supporting your client at, this life-changing event, or whether that's just continuing to show up for them even when they're not my client anymore, when they've been housed, just checking in every so often, and just, whether it's their sobriety date, or just making sure that their mental health is okay, kind of referring back to that, being on their own schedule again, just those little check-ins to continue that trust and continue that healthy relationship with them, I think is so important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we're closing in on 11:30, our next conversation, but want to give you a chance to share something else that's on your heart. What else are you eager to share today that you just want people to know? Whatever it may be.
You go first.
I don't know. I think it would be just that we remove that lens that we look through when we see someone on the street, and see them as a real person. Because these women that come in, they're so... they really are just so lovely, and I think for both Kim and I, this is not a job for us. It's just life-changing for us, maybe as it is for them sometimes, just to be able to experience that with them, and that they trust us with that. And really, for us, we trust Jesus to be able to speak into their situations, because we don't have it all together, and we don't know all the right things to say, but he does. And so, he came to serve and save the lost and the brokenhearted, and that's what we get to do. And really, we're all brokenhearted. We all come in with these broken pieces, and the only person that can heal is Jesus. And so we get to be maybe the only Jesus they will ever see. And whether that's for just 5 minutes of spending time with them, or if they're there for months, every minute we get to show a piece of who Jesus is and why we do what we do.
Yeah, and I completely agree. And I actually was just talking to one of my clients about this the other day, that my job has never felt like a job, and I get the honor of coming to work each day. And I told her, I said, it's like I walk through the doors. I didn't wake up and be like, oh, okay, I've got to go to work today. I'm excited. It's like I'm getting to go visit my friends. And so, my office specifically is in the hallway and where their bedrooms are, and so I think it's just so cool that I get to, for my job, get to just show them the love of Jesus day in and day out. Whether that's just getting them a coat, whether that's a hug, whether they stop by for a piece of chocolate, just getting to speak into their life and just showing them that positive reinforcement, and just showing them that, we serve an amazing God, and that he is the one that this is all about, and that showing him the love of Jesus is what I'm getting paid to do, but it almost doesn't feel right, because these women truly are amazing, and they have changed my life far more than I could ever change theirs. But just being able to give them that hope and teach them those healthy boundaries and be a part of those conversations that are hard, just shows them that anything is possible with Jesus.